Well, I was trying to find something purple to wear, but I guess I don't have any purple clothes, which is a shame because that's my color. Or it was, maybe it's not now, but whatever. So, this video, if you can't read the title, I'm gonna do something I've only done one time before. A couple years back, I did a video where I said, where would you start if you wanted to read every single important arc of Moon Knight? This time around, we're gonna be doing it for Clint Barton Hawkeye. Because it's not something I've really talked about on this channel because I've kind of primarily stayed my focus to being on Mark Spector. Hawkeye is the character that got me into comics. He's the character that I fell in love with first. He's the character that I've enjoyed first. Clint Barton is a character who I have loved for a very long time and will continue to love for a very long time. So he's got a show coming out, which is just impressive to say because it's Hawkeye, and that he's getting a show is weird, but I was like, it's time. It's time for me to do an in-depth video talking about Hawkeye. I figured what better to do than to recommend to the viewing masses out there where to start reading this character. And I figured let's do it in the same format I did for Moon Knight and it'll be fun. Also, I will throw this option out there. If any of you lovely people are podcast people and you need someone to come on your show to talk about Hawkeye, whether it's the television show or just the comic book character, I'd love to do it. I'd love to talk about this character, and if you just reach out. If we can find some schedule or something to work out, I'll do it. I think it'd be fun. I love Hawkeye. I'm willing to talk about the character. So this is going to be a comprehensive list. Again, I do want to specify this is not going to be every single book or appearance or title with Hawkeye in it. This is going to be the ones where I think if you want a clear understanding of this character, I think you should check these out. That's all this is. These are the ones that are going to give you a bigger picture for the character, and it's going to be pretty fun that way. So, if you want to start getting into Hawkeye, you got to, obviously start with the connection to the Avengers, and he does, I think, join the team in, issue 16, or is it later? He starts early into the Avengers run, and that is just, here's Clint Barton as a dick. He's kind of aggressive, he's angry, he's a little more, just yellable and just a dick. He's just a dick in these earlier issues. It kind of just remains a dick for the better part of a decade. He's just the angry one. He's like, I quit. I'm going to take the Goliath formula, become a big boy. I'm going to come back to normal. Going to yell at some people. I'm going to call out everybody on their bullshit. That is what Clint does in the early Avengers books. And then come around the early 80s and 84, Clint finally gets his chance at the big break, and he gets a 4-issue miniseries called Hawkeye. And Hawkeye is very fun. I like this book a lot. Not only just because it's just I think the best of the classic era of Clint Barton, where he's still kind of aggressive and angry. He's still kind of, a dick. But he's a little more chill. There's a girl telling him, stop it. What is wrong with you? Why are you acting like this? He does some crazy Clint things where he just goes a little, over the top in some situations. And it's cool to see. And it works really well for him. And then that book also is kind of just in that perfect era where it coalesces with the West Coast Avengers. So the West Coast Avengers is pretty much Hawkeye hates everybody. I'm going to go west. Anybody who wants to join me out west on the nice coast of whatever, California, it'll be fun. We'll just have a couple beers, have a barbecue, just chill and enjoy ourselves. So that 4-issue miniseries of Hawkeye, it is really good. It is just impressive and tight and just shows you that era of Hawkeye just starting to be less of an aggressive piece of crap and just more of a compassionate kind of the vibe he will get going forward, where he stops being the douchebag, the dick, the asshole, and starts kind of becoming the angry older brother who's just kind of rolling his eyes at every situation or flirting with everything in sight. It does show the relationship between him and Mockingbird, which I really enjoy to see. I love their connection, and I think they should be together. I will stand by that till the ends of time. Clint and Bobby should be together. They should be married. They should just have kids now. They should just be in that situation. But the fact that they're not, whatever. He's with Linda Cardellini. Okay. So that Hawkeye run's good. There's a 4-issue miniseries of the West Coast Avengers, which is kind of fun. Again, the West Coast Avengers is just more, it's serious. The book is serious. But it's just more or less just let's just get kind of goofy with it, the Avengers was just kind of a mess at that point with some weird people on the team. And Clint's I'll just go be a mess over here where at least we can have fun on the coastline. And that's pretty much all the book is. It's just, the California lifestyle But the Avengers, everyone's like sexy and cool, everybody's just having fun. Eventually it does get ahead of itself, and after the miniseries comes out, it does become an ongoing series that runs for over 100 issues. It's just a good time. It is very enjoyable. It is very strong. It's a great portrayal of these characters. And it's just a great Clint Barton story because he's leading. He's leading the team. And I think there's a key part to Clint that kind of gets overlooked. I do think he should always be on an Avengers team. He's one of those staple characters that just makes your Avengers team work. And I do think that sometimes he gets overlooked that he should be an authority figure in that team. Later stories, he's kind of just like the angry brother. Again, like that's just kind of where he gets defaulted to because he doesn't get taken as seriously anymore, which kind of sucks. But I think that's one of the things that the movies did right, was show that Clint should be an authority figure, a more adult character, while still being goofy and silly. Like, people should respect his name when they hear it, as opposed to making fun of it. So this is his, like, I'm still coming into my own era. I'm kind of angry, kind of loud. I'm not that strong. The 80s are where Clint shines. We come into the 90s. His books aren't selling. He goes into like the time capsule of all the characters that aren't doing good. Where Heroes Reborn and Heroes Return and all that bullshit happens again. That's when Clint returns, only a couple years later to be killed off again during Avengers Disassembled. And then there's a good time where Clint literally just isn't there. Because no one wants to write him. Because after Avengers and the West Coast Avengers, what the frick do you do with Clint? He's just an Arrow guy. No one knows what to do. But then he comes back, he's Ronin for a bit, and it's just like hunky-dory for a bit. And that new Avengers stuff where Clint comes in, it's okay. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it is acceptable for what that character is and what he is doing, whatever. So then comes, I think, the resurgence, because he's going to be in a film, of Clint Barton, and that is just these two stories. And I honestly think these next two stories are underrated in terms of Clint Barton stuff. They're enjoyable. They are very strong ideas for the character. They take themselves very seriously, and I like it. The first one is Hawkeye and Mockingbird, which, again, we're bringing back this couple together. They've been through the ringer in the previous decades, more so in the contemporary half of those decades, and now the fact is they are back together. They are dealing with their problems and like the world that kind of like left them behind. They're back together. They're having a fun time. The book is very serious, and out of everything on this list, I think it's probably the weakest. But I do think that this short-lived series that ran for only a couple issues is a very important factor into what makes Hawkeye the character he's going to become. It just shows you, like, he is capable of handling his own stuff. He doesn't need to be tied to the Avengers. He should be on an Avengers team. He's a staple character, but if he needs to, he's like, yeah, I can be grouchy over here on my own, and I could deal with shit with my ex-wife at this point. We can get our stuff done together, and everything is hunky-dory. I think that book is very strong, and I think that book is very cool. But, and this is a big but, it's only overshadowed by this another short-lived series that I think was a mini, 4 issues, I think. It is Hawkeye Blind Spot. Now, this is the Hawkeye book that came out when I was starting to get into comic books, and I enjoy this a lot. I will always say Hawkeye Blind Spot is kind of just like a nice story for me. Jim McCain did this, and he also did Hawkeye and Mockingbird, and I think they're both very fantastic books. So Hawkeye Blind Spot is basically Clint Barton is getting back into the basics of his life, but he's also losing his sight. And that's kind of why he wore those special glasses for a bit. And it's basically just him dealing with this on his own and trying not to be connected to the larger Marvel universe while doing it. This is the era where Clint is, like I said, he's getting back to basics and trying to become the person we know he's going to be. It's pretty much the prelude to the ass that he will become. And not like the guy who can't catch a break yet, just like the aggressive nature where he's literally yelling at characters like Captain America and Tony Stark in this book. Just like, guys, you can't help me. I'll get through this shit. Quit yelling at me or telling me what to do. I'm a grown-ass man. I don't need your help with this situation. And then that's kind of like the end of this version of Clint. And I do like this guy. Like, I think there's a smug arrogance to a classic Clint Barton that I enjoy. And the fact that we had that in the 80s, and he's like, I'm going to be goofy over here for a bit in the West Coast Avengers. Then he just moves on, he dies, and he comes back, and he's still pissed off. I think it's cool. And I do like that interpretation of Clint Barton. I think it is very strong and very positive. I think those are all very good interpretations of the character. But then this big event happens called he's in a freaking movie. So we have to kind of like spin our wheels a little bit more and reinvent the character in a new way that kind of correlates more or less to the movie. Not at all, actually, because in 2012, we get the run that everybody who is watching this video knows. That, of course, is the Matt Fraction and David Aja run, My Life as a Weapon. I say everybody knows it because this is, if I'm going to take a big bet over here and say this is the only Hawkeye comic that anybody who's watching this has watched, or read, I should say. Because this is it. This is the definitive Hawkeye run. It strips him back to just a guy living in an apartment. He's like the landlord. He's just a goofy dude. He can't catch a break every situation he gets into. He is stumbling about. He's bruised. He is broken. He is cut up. He is just stripped down to the point where it's almost a joke. And I think this is a strong Hawkeye run. I am not bashing this run at all. I do think it gets overshadowed, or it overshadows, I should say, everything else with the character just because of how strong and how many people read it. Like, it's probably the most well-sold Hawkeye book. But I will say, it's not my personal favorite. I think it's a great interpretation of the character. It shows some very strong points. It deals with a lot of great themes and ideas, and it plays with so much cool stuff for Hawkeye. It introduces like him and Kate having the relationship and the connection. It gives us Lucky. If you are going to watch the TV show, a lot of it's going to be inspired by this run, which I think is okay. It just takes Hawkeye in a different direction where you have MCU Hawkeye where he's brash, he is arrogant, he hates people, but he does the right thing. He's like your angry older brother who doesn't want to take you for ice cream, but he's going to go to impress the girl and to get himself some, rocky road. And then you have post MCU Hawkeye, who is this like kind of like represents this struggling artist who nobody really knows or cares about, and he can't catch a break. Likewise, every girl he dates doesn't like him. The one stable relationship he has is like his protege who thinks he's an idiot. Everything about him just kind of falls apart. And it doesn't work. And this leads into some cool stuff later on in this run where like Jeff Lemire takes over and we deal with more like Barney, his brother, and those connections and like future storylines of like Kate and him. And it's all very cool stuff. And it does work surprisingly well and gives Hawkeye some much needed interesting factors going on for him. Again, this is probably the strongest run. It's not my personal favorite, I did say that, but the Aja stuff, it's the best. It is just the most well written. It actually gives the guy something to do. It does an interesting job with the characterization, and it's kind of interesting. So it's the one you've all read. My Life as a Weapon is probably the definitive Hawkeye story. But after that, there is another run I do want to talk about because it's the most recent. It came out last year. It is called Hawkeye Freefall. And this is a 6-issue miniseries written by Matthew Rosenberg with art by Otto Schmidt. And basically this book is somebody puts on the Ronin costume to do some damage and shit. And Clint's like, that should not be my problem, but I guess it's going to be my problem. It is taking the concept of the arrogant asshole Clint and the can't catch a break Clint, clashing them together and just showing you this machination of this stupid guy who can't get his life together and tries to be the smart, arrogant guy, but fails miserably, and just his life just spirals out of control because it is a beautiful book that I think could represent the end of a Clint Barton arc if we're looking at this entire story as an arc where Clint starts off as, hey, I'm on the Avengers, screw off everybody who wants to deal with me, gets mad on the Avengers, leaves, starts his own team in the West Coast. Suddenly, he's not doing good there. He gets killed going back to the actual Avengers. He comes back to life. He's still angry at everybody. And then suddenly he has an epiphany like, well, this is going nowhere. I'm just going to try to get my life back on track. It keeps falling apart. I can't catch a break. Every woman hates me. Everybody hates me. Leading to Freefall, where he's like, now all my past bullshit is coming back to get me. I'm going to try to do the right thing here, but I can't, to the point where even the villains of the Marvel Universe are watching me stumble my way through my life. They're looking at me like, should we help this guy? What are we going to do? He's no better than us. He's a broken, stupid guy who can't catch a break. And that is the last we've seen Clint Barton take his own leading title in a Hawkeye book. So I love this character, if you can't tell, and I do think these are the key things with the Hawkeye stuff. We start in the beginning of his run in the Avengers in like the 60s and the 70s. That's some good stuff for him. He gets a solo title in the 80s, and then he leads the West Coast Avengers in the 80s. Then we jump to 2010, where he's with Hawkeye, Mockingbird, and Hawkeye Blind Spot, which are both really good books that just represent some cool stuff with Clint. We jump to 2012, where he becomes My Life as a Weapon. He does some fun stuff there. And then just last year in 2020, we saw the wrap-up of Hawkeye Freefall, where it culminates in this beautiful picture of Clint Barton, where he's the guy who can't catch a break, and he's angry at himself for not being able to accomplish any of that. So, Clint Barton's great. Hawkeye's a cool character, he's a fun concept, and if you want to read the character, you want to know anything about him, these are the books I recommend checking out to get your picture of Clint Barton. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I do want to specify again, people have said, you gonna do this for a lot of other characters? No. I can't do this kind of video for any other character except the ones that mean the world to me. So if this video does good like the Moon Knight one did freaking phenomenal, we could be back next year to talk about Norrin Radd, Danny Rand, Sue Storm. Those are the ones I could talk about, but be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, as always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.